Dr. John Finney, an Irish immigrant educated as a physician, arrived in Newcastle in the early 18th century and constructed the Amstel House as his private residence in 1738. He married Elizabeth French, a woman of a wealthy Newcastle merchant family. Because 18th century law forced a woman to relinquish control of her personal finances to her husband upon marriage, Finney was able to use her resources and his own professional background to amass great wealth. By the time he built this home in 1738, Finney was Newcastle's largest landowner. The Amstel House, known as the Corner in the 18th century, was his showpiece. An early example of the Georgian style, its architecture exudes grace and elegance through balance and symmetry, while its mass and horizontality communicate power and permanence. This sense was conveyed by architectural features such as the Flemish bond brickwork pattern that alternates between the short and long sides of the brick, the belt course of protruding brick between the first and second floors, and the water table along the base of the building that would deflect water away from the foundation. It's also important to note that Flemish bond brickwork, due to its more expensive nature, was usually used on those sides of a building that would face the road, or in the case of a corner house like the Amstel House, two of the sides. The less prominent sides of the building usually feature a simpler brickwork pattern, like an English common bond, for example. You'll see many of these architectural features repeated in other buildings throughout the tour. This house faces 4th Street, which may seem unusual since Delaware Street is more prominent. However, when the house was constructed in 1738, the buildings on neighboring corners were not yet built, and Finney's home overlooked the Newcastle Courthouse, despite it being a block away. Finney had chosen the most visible and prominent location in Newcastle, overlooking the town's most important public building. This location was a visible sign to anyone visiting Newcastle of Finney's power and prestige within his community. After Finney died in 1774, the house passed to his children, David and Anna. In 1775, they rented the home to Nicholas Van Dyke Sr., an attorney from St. George's, Delaware. Van Dyke lived here for 10 years, most of which were the years of the American Revolution. Van Dyke was an avid revolutionary. He was a member of the Second Continental Congress, a signer of the Articles of Confederation, and the 7th President or Governor of Delaware from 1783 to 1786. Much of the business and news surrounding the formation of the state of Delaware, and indeed the United States, came through this house. The Amstel House even hosted George Washington on April 30th, 1784, when he attended the wedding of Governor Van Dyke's daughter Anne to local attorney Kenzie Johns. Nicholas moved out of the house by 1785, and Anne and Kenzie moved in and lived here until 1790, when their new home at the corner of 3rd and Delaware Streets was finished.